Thanks. Now call on Alex Riley to be followed by Maureen Watt. Up to 4 minutes. Very tight for time. Less would be more, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I recently met with a group of home care workers and they were working in care homes in the private sector. And as the discussion went on, I realised that many of them had two things in common. Firstly, they were absolutely dedicated to caring for the people that were in the care homes that they worked in. And secondly, the majority of them were earning the minimum wage. And it strikes me that in terms of how we put value on people's employment in this country, that people who are caring for others, and anybody who's had a member of their family in a care home would say that people who are caring for others are worth much more than the minimum wage. But I remembered as council leader in Fife that a couple of years ago, last year in fact, the Scottish Government did a deal with COSLA, where the Scottish Government agreed with COSLA that care homes would be paid a 2.5% increase, and indeed the Scottish Government had to put some of the money into that. And also as a leader in Fife, I was forever being lobbied by the care home owners who were consistently telling me that the cost of introducing the living wage would mean that they would go out of business. And I sometimes wonder whether the Scottish Government's reluctance to look at including the living wage within the procurement bill has more to do with the lobbying and potential costs than it does to do with the EU. The second point I would want to make is the report that came out today for the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, which argues that the gap began before children started school and widened as they got older. It also points out that the study found that in early secondary school, only 28% of children from poorer families were performing well in numeracy, compared with 56% of those from disadvantaged backgrounds. And that is something that educationalists and social workers have been saying for years, that you could identify in the early years those children that are less likely to succeed in the education system, and therefore less likely to succeed throughout their life, and therefore more likely to be living on low incomes and living in deprivation and poverty. And that cycle of deprivation we see continuing and continuing within Scotland. And if we are to address that, then we have to focus our policies and focus them on the early years. Now, the Scottish Government a few years ago talked about a change fund for early years. In Fife Council's case, Fife Council made £7.8 million available for that change fund. The Scottish Government made not a penny available. The NHS was to be a partner within that. The NHS made not a penny available. And if we're serious about tackling the early years and getting in there and doing the work that Fife Council is doing right now, then it needs money to be directed and resourced into those early years so that we improve the life opportunities, so that when children are starting the school, they're starting the school with a level playing field. And if we continue to invest, and that needs a radical shift in policy. It needs a policy that recognises that in the poorer areas those schools are underperforming, and there's much more that we can actually do there. Now, I've seen that in Fife, I've seen a priority, but what that requires is political will, and it means the courage of your convictions to actually put the resources where they will make the biggest difference. The Scottish Government have failed to do that, and should consider their policies if we're serious about tackling inequality.
Thanks so much.